You guys like Metal Gear? A while ago, I covered a handful of games that collaborated with Metal Gear Solid, games like Ape Escape, Little Big Planet, and Fortnite. But you see, I made what should have been a footnote into an entire lesson. So today, I'm going to go over every single Metal Gear collaboration that I haven't already talked about. Let me clarify. This is every collaboration with Metal Gear. A collaboration in this instance is something like being able to play a snake in Fortnite and not a Mario figure showing up in Twin Snakes or an exclamation mark appearing over someone's head. That is more along the lines of a cameo/reference. I'll talk about those sorts of things another day. I'm also only going to be talking about collaborations with other games, so no Mountain Dew, no Calorie Mate, no that. We've got a lot to get through, so prepare yourself. Emotionally. Beat Mania was a series of rhythm games by Konami that are similar in style to, but predate the Rock Band or Guitar Hero series. In Beat Mania 3rd Mix, you can play a remix of the Metal Gear Solid theme. The remix is not my thing. Konami Krazy Racers was a Mario Kart-esque kart racer where you get to play as classic Konami characters in classic Konami settings, like the lava lake outside of Dracula's castle. Now, I'll admit, I low-key fuck with this game. The theme is a bop, I love the style of everything, and I'm also just a sucker for most things from the Game Boy Advance. Our Metal Gear rep in this is Gray Fox, better known as Cyborg Ninja, or just Ninja in this game. Apparently this was our pick for the family-friendly mascot character back in June of 2001. You also get the stages Cyberfield 1 and 2 with the tower that you scale down in Metal Gear Solid 1, as well as a pretty bangin' remix of the main theme. At least I think it's good. Granted, my expectations for remixes right now is Metal Gear Solid 2 is my favorite game in the franchise. I don't exactly know why that is, it's just something that is. Exclusive to the PS2 version is a mode known only as Skateboarding, where you guessed it, skateboard as either Raiden or Snake on the big shell. That's it. That's all there is. Okay, fine. In an attempt to rival the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater series, Konami released Evolution Skateboarding. It sucks. Once again, you can ride around on the big shell and play as Snake and Raiden, but now you can also play as Gerlukovich Soldiers 1 and 2, and also this alien guy. He's not from Metal Gear, I just dig his vibe. What the f*** is this? DreamMix TV World Fighters was Konami's Japan-exclusive answer to Super Smash Bros. It was the wrong answer, but still, an answer nonetheless. Solid Snake is playable here in both his Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2 designs. This is a rare occurrence, as you'll soon find that we usually only get the design from 2. Also featured is the Big Shell as a stage, a variant of the main theme, as well as a variant of Yell Dead Cell. You can also play as Tyson Granger from Beyblade and both Optimus Prime and Megatron from Transformers. I didn't know how to bring that fact up naturally, so I'm just going to drop that little factoid in and we're going to move on, okay? Okay. Snake Eater's theme is a playable track in Volume 3. I'm not going to elaborate too much. It's karaoke. Last time Snake Eater's theme was mentioned, I got a bit too off track. Rumble Roses is going to be the reason this video gets demonetized. To start things off lightly, Reiko Hinamoto and her alter ego Rowdy Reiko were playable characters in Metal Gear Solid 3's online mode. And in Rumble Rose's Double Cross XX, does it matter? In Rumble Rose's That One, you can unlock both Olga Gerlukovich and Eva's costumes for all of the playable characters. Yes, I'm trying to speed through this section, my family is watching this. Yeah, this is why you're here, isn't it? Snake was the first ever third-party character to be invited to the series. This is because Kojima and Sakurai were good friends, and Kojima's son was a fan of Super Smash Bros. There were talks of putting him into Melee, but the game was so far in development that they didn't have the time to work on him. Fast forward to Brawl, and he is officially in as a playable character. I've got my issues with how Snake is portrayed here, but hey, I can't complain too much because this collaboration was how I got into Metal Gear in the first place. He also comes with the Shadow Moses stage with some fun little Easter eggs like Rex, Ray, or even the geckos breaking down this wall back here. And then there's what I would consider to be the best Easter egg in all of gaming, where you can call Roy Campbell over the codec for some information about your opponent. Other Metal Gear characters like Master Miller, Meryl Silverberg, Revolver Ocelot, Otacon, and Mei Ling are also here, as stickers. New International Track and Field is a 2008 entry in the Track and Field series that Konami was trying to push since 1983. Seeing as this was a fitness-related video game in 2008, it was only natural that this game would be released for Nintendo's best-selling console, the Nintendo DS. Sure, man. You can play a snake. Yeah, that's about it. Oh boy, have I been delaying this one for a while. I'll start by saying this, and yes, it's the reason why it took so long to get to this. I'm just not that into Monster Hunter, and Peacewalker is not one of my favorite Metal Gears gameplay-wise. I'll be the first to admit that I've never given Monster Hunter a fair shot, so maybe that first statement will age poorly. I'm willing to fight anyone on that second one, though that game is just not for me. In Peacewalker, you can unlock a series of extra ops known as hunting quests, where you fight Monster Hunter enemies like, is that a f***ing dragon? There was also a set of DLC shirts that you could wear. The best part of this was the cutscene where Big Boss is just talking to a cat. Meanwhile, on the Monster Hunter side of things, Monster Hunter Portable 3 gave you a lot of cosmetics for things like your little cat friend. While doing research on this collaboration, I found that apparently the Monster Hunter film, directed by Paul W.S. Anderson, took direct inspiration from this collaboration. The interview is seemingly lost now, so the only source I have is this Kotaku article from 2020. Man, I'm not even a Monster Hunter fan and I'm upset about that. You want to see something funny? This is the roster for PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale. And now this is the roster if you only include characters that have received a new entry in this console generation. Not counting re-releases. That's rough, buddy. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale was Sony's answer to the Smash Bros. Series, the difference being that Nintendo tends to use Smash Bros. As a celebration of gaming, while PlayStation All-Stars was more of an advertisement. I can't wait to play as Dante from DMC Devil May Cry. No, not Devil May Cry, DMC Devil May Cry. That sentiment carries over to our Metal Gear rep in the game, Raiden from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. I've alluded to how I feel about Metal Gear Rising in the past, but I think if anyone from Metal Gear makes sense in a fighting game, it's Raiden. Too bad he's in this one! He comes with a story mode where he's just Raiden from Metal Gear Rising. For some reason, his rival is Cole McGrath from the Infamous series. I don't know why it was him and not Dante, but sure, we'll roll with it, I guess. Lastly, and this is something that I do enjoy quite a bit, in Smash Bros, every stage represents a single game or series. In PlayStation All-Stars, every stage starts off with a single theme like Uncharted, Parappa the Rapper, or Ape Escape, and then during the match, that stage is invaded by other series. Metal Gear doesn't start off with a stage. Instead, the Loco Roco stage is invaded by Metal Gear Ray. If I were in charge of things, I would have started things off on a Metal Gear stage and then have it be invaded by Ape Escape, but what do I know? They're the ones that made the game, so I'm sure they knew exactly what they were doing. Well, that's unfortunate. Super Bomberman R was a launch title for the Nintendo Switch and was my first Bomberman game. I think it's fun, but it's probably best with friends and not solo. At any rate, we get 3 playable characters this time around with Solid Snake, Naked Snake, and Raiden sporting his Revengeance style. However, in Super Bomberman R Online, he sports his design from Guns of the Patriots. That's fun! In the Grand Prix mode, there is a specific rule set known as checkpoints. The stage here is Mother Base from the Phantom Pain, with several banners that either have Raiden and the Snake's Bomberman design, or just banners you would find on Mother Base. The stage also comes with another fun remix. The only downside is that you can only play on this stage if you're playing on the Checkpoints game mode. But don't worry, we're not done with Bomberman just yet. 2014 saw the release of Super Smash Bros. For Wii U and 3DS. Snake was not brought back this time around, possibly due to issues between Konami and Kojima at the time. However, 4 years later, we would see a new Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo Switch. During Nintendo's E3 Direct, we were treated to a video of everyone that was returning for the new entry. Throughout the first half, you see characters you'd expect, and start to see characters you would have doubted returning. Mewtwo, makes sense. Ice Climbers, they were missing from the last game. Pokemon Trainer, Ryu, Cloud? And then this. Snake was the face of Everyone Is Here. Metal Gear was in such an odd spot around this time. The last game in the series was Metal Gear Survive, which means that the last game in the series was Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. And the closest thing that we got was the Bomberman collab from the previous year. It was a dark time for Metal Gear fans. So, seeing Snake return immediately made me believe that everyone was returning. What a trailer. Oh yeah, and then he was in the game. Alright, so there were a few minor changes to his moveset and all. Shadow Moses returned, we got a track from Peacewalker, and in lieu of stickers, we have spirits for several characters. An important thing to note for Shadow Moses' return, yes, the codec calls return, but it only works for characters that were present in Brawl. Characters like Mewtwo and Roy that were in Melee but not Brawl don't have codec entries, and neither do characters from Wii U and 3DS, like Pac-Man or Cloud. It gets even weirder when characters in the codec call still refer to this game as Brawl. I understand not wanting to make new entries for every single character, but it's still a little disappointing if I'm being honest. Not wanting to end on a downer, Snake's classic mode is called Weapons and Equipment OSP. It starts with a fight against the Inklings, presumably a reference to either Decoy or Laughing Octopus. Next is a fight against Diddy Kong, an obvious reference to Snake vs. Monkey. Then it's a fight against Pit. He doesn't really have a reference, but if you do a bit of digging, then you'll find that Pit's voice actor also voiced Chico in Peacewalker and Ground Zeroes. Some would call this a stretch, but I think it makes sense. We then go to the jungle with the Snake Eater theme playing while we fight Link, a reference to the Fear from Metal Gear Solid 3. Now it's time for a horde battle against several Samus and Rob fighters. I believe this is a reference to the soldiers and geckos you fight in Metal Gear Solid 4. We then go to Shadow Moses to fight another Snake. This could be a reference to Liquid given the stage choice, but seeing as he defaults to the camo alt and switches to the default skin if you're wearing the camo alt, I believe it's more of a reference to Big Boss. I could be wrong though. After the odd little obstacle course, your final fight is against Galeum, a very obvious stand-in for a Metal Gear. I'm glad that, despite the state Metal Gear was in back in 2018, Snake's classic mode was a love letter to his history. We've now arrived at the most recent entry in the history of Metal Gear collaborations. Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater released on PlayStation 5, the Xbox Series consoles, and PC. The game mode Snake vs. Monkey makes a return in the PS5 and PC version of the game. However, it was not on the Xbox version, as Ape Escape is Sony's IP, and God forbid they actually do something with it. Instead, we get... It's my boy! Otacon's plan for Snake is for him to meet up with the US military for a training exercise, but Mei Ling, now sporting a new sprite inspired by Otacon's pixel art sprite, comes in to say that she's got it covered and that he'll be facing off against Bomberman. Otacon is skeptical until Mei Ling tells him about the Bomberman anime. My king folds instantaneously. Mei Ling explains that Bomberman's nemesis, the Bugler, is a bearded old man. Otacon immediately puts two and two together. The funniest part? This is the actual explanation. He's not wrong when he assumes this. The gameplay is very much just the Snake vs. Monkey missions from Snake Eater's original release, with the added caveat of throwing bombs to catch the Bombermans. Bombermen. Bomber people? Bomber fellas. For the most part, the gameplay is the exact same, except for these parts in certain levels where you play in the style of Bomberman. I wish you swapped over to the Snake design from Super Bomberman R, but luckily those designs are still utilized, as those designs are used as bonus captures. You even get a little emblem for catching them. Once you beat every level, you unlock the Bomb Hat for use in the main campaign. It doesn't do anything, but it's still fun. With that, I have covered every collaboration Metal Gear has had with other video games. Am I missing something? Probably, I wouldn't be surprised. I'm well aware I didn't go as in-depth on some of these entries, but there wasn't really a lot to say for a lot of these collaborations. Like, I probably couldn't talk about a single track being playable in an old rhythm game the same way I could talk about something like Metal Gear, Snake vs. Monkey, or the Little Big Planet DLC. I probably would have talked about the Fortnite collaboration here if I didn't already talk about it in its own video last year. For now, though, I'm gonna close the curtain on Metal Gear. I'll return, don't worry, but I've got something else that I want to cook up. Whoa, I'm talking at the end of a video, that's new. I want to go ahead and take this time to thank the person who edited this entire thing, the fantastic Kate Akato. They edited this entire thing, and I am so incredibly grateful for that, because this video probably wouldn't have come out, and neither would the next couple of videos. So everyone go thank Kate Akato, go check out their channel, they're incredible. I also want to thank my good friends Cryonite and Funky Psychosis. I'm not going to say what their contribution was, but it was a contribution. They know what they did.